The Ingraham angle is now. Laura Ingraham. Thanks as always for spending time with us. Inside the violent world of Chicago's gangs, are you walking around strapped? I got a little going on. Bleep, you know what's going on. So we do got some backup. Laura. Plus, someone should tell Kathy Hochul that this is racist. Don't stop by the liquor store, buy something for the kids. Buy them some food. Laura. Imagine that you are flying to France, but you end up in Africa. My angle in moments. First, a few hours ago, I forced myself to watch the full unedited video of Irina Zarutska's murder. Now, every adult American should see what this monster did to her. At stake here is what we talk about when we talk about crime. In a moment, I'm going to show you some of it. I have to warn you, it's extremely upsetting and graphic. It's heartbreaking. The surveillance video shows Irina Zarutska getting on the train by herself in her work uniform, sitting down by herself in a row. That just happened to be in front of DeCarlos Brown Jr. Approximately 4 minutes later, Mr. Brown pulled out a pocket knife. You see him on video open that pocket knife and stabbed her 3 times in the neck. He walked off the train with blood dripping from the knife. This is obviously a horrible situation. Laura. With her throat slit and beginning to bleed out, 23-year-old Irina Zarutska covered her mouth. She grabbed at her throat and looked up in disbelief at the man who had just stabbed her as if to ask why. And Carlos Brown Jr. casually strolled away. Her face fell into her hands. The blood splattered through the aisle, and seconds later she bows her head, slumped over her seat, and falls to the train floor lying in a pool of blood, her own blood. Now, by the time police arrived, Irina was dead. So now, the Trump administration is involved and is supplementing state charges with federal ones. DeCarlos Brown Jr. is facing life in prison or the death penalty, and while we hope this brings justice for Zarutska, we have to make sure we never forget who she was. She worked at a senior citizen center. She worked at a pizza place. She took care of animals in the neighborhood. She was building her young life. She recently moved in with her partner. She was probably tired after a long day of work and just trying to get home to her loved ones, but she never made it. The instant her life was over, and her mother, her father, her siblings, her brother and sister, and her other family and friends, their lives will never be the same. Laura. Zarutska had fled Ukraine trying to escape the war and make a life here that was better than the one she left behind. After Irina's death, the embassy in Ukraine called and said, "We'll help you." Bring her home, and her family said no. She loved America. We're going to bury her here. So I think we can give her an America to be proud of. As Mr. Barnacle said, something here is broken and we're here to fix it. Laura. Here with reaction is Russ Ferguson, the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of North Carolina, the man you just saw. Russ, I watched your press conference. You got choked up. I think anyone watching that and thinking about the terror this poor young woman felt was choked up as well. Tell us what you know so far about how this was allowed to happen in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, well, thank you, Laura. Thank you for your attention to it. I get choked up again listening to your monologue about this situation. Career criminal released from state custody 14 times. He had served some sentences. He served about 6 years in state prison, but had a very violent past, had done a lot of terrible things before he did this just very random crime on a very innocent 23-year-old woman who was working 3 jobs to save up for a car and taking the train home from work. It's an absolutely tragic situation. Laura. Explain the federal nature of this in your view, given the evidence that you have already looked at. Yeah, I mean, classically, this is a state crime. It's a stabbing. It's a murder. Those things are all state crimes. This is a unique crime because it happened on a public transit system, and that affects the American way of life. Those are people trying to get to work. They are trying to get to college for their classes. They are trying to get to their families. And because of that, Congress was very wise and created a federal statute that said it is a federal crime to commit an act of violence on a mass transportation provider, and that's exactly what we have here. We brought that charge. With that charge, we have the ability to supplement the state first-degree murder charge. And we are seeing this more as an add-on to that charge, a backup to that charge to make sure violent people like this don't see the light of day again. Laura, have you or any of your men had the chance to interview witnesses? There were a number of people on that train when this horrific murder took place. Local police interviewed the defendant. I talked with the family of the victim just to touch base with them. That investigation is underway. We filed this by criminal complaint today, but we're still investigating. The FBI is still investigating. We may see additional charges. We're going to charge whatever the facts will support in this case. So that investigation is ongoing. Laura. Now, Russ, there are reports that Brown was heard on the video saying, "I got that white girl." Do you have confirmation that in fact was said? That obviously brings it to possible hate crime as well. I do not have confirmation of that. We are looking at civil rights violations or a hate crime, all of that, if we have the evidence to support an additional charge. We have some statements from him. We have some eyewitness statements. We do not have confirmation on any of that yet, but we continue to investigate, and if that turns out to be true, we will bring the appropriate charge. Laura, we also understand that, and you referenced this, that her parents, obviously heartbroken, did not want her body to be returned to Ukraine, knowing that she came to the United States for a better life. I know her mom speaks almost no English, but tell us about that conversation. I spoke to her mom through a translator today, and I spoke to her uncle. Shortly after her death, the embassy in Ukraine reached out and said, we will help financially or whatever we need to do to get her body home, so you can bury her at home in Ukraine. The family said no. They said she came to America. She loved America. They buried her here in America, which is a true testament to what this country is, but it's also very fragile. If we allow things like this to happen, that won't be the America to live in anymore. That's why we are bringing the federal government in on this to bring federal charges and put bad folks behind bars. Laura, Russ, I had been thinking about this today as a mom. I have a 20-year-old daughter and I have 2 sons. And how it's just commonly understood that you get on a train or a bus and a lot of people wear earbuds. Not smart to wear earbuds. I tell my kids this all the time. You have to be situationally aware. Given the crime situation, although Charlotte is probably one of the better cities in the United States, what can you tell us about reassuring the American people tonight that the federal government will step in if necessary if safety is not achievable under some of these cities under the current regime of laws, judges, and prosecutors? Yeah. That's the worst part about this case, Laura. I'm a dad, too. Now, the whole process is different. Can I take my daughter to play on the weekends? Is it like the light rail? Is it not safe? I totally get that concern. As a parent, I think it's a totally reasonable concern to have, where state and locals won't do anything. This administration has been very clear. We are going to step in, safety, for every family. This is going to be a long... Next year, that's not going to be the case in federal court. We're going to do what we can to bring these cases to the federal system. Laura, I think right now, the response from some, not all, but some in the Democrat Party and some in the pundit class, is that the Trump administration is, quote, using crime and personal tragedy to deflect from issues with the economy or deflect from Epstein, or You know, one of the other issues that they don't want to talk about, and your response. To that? You cannot make up these crimes. I wish the crime was made up. Snap my fingers, you are right. It's gone and it was a retraction. It's not. It happened. A 23-year-old woman lost her life and this is the news of the day. This is important. And this is what is happening. If you think this is a distraction, then the distraction is the distraction. You need to focus on what is important. People are dying, and that is enough. Laura. I know the suspect. We understand has given a statement. Can you tell us anything about that statement? I have not seen the statement the suspect gave. Did he talk to police after the incident? Yes, and we do have a statement from him. That statement did form part of our charges and part of our confidence in bringing those charges. We do have that. That will come to light in trial in this case. Right now, we are still using that statement for investigative leads to shore. This case up. We charged this case very quickly, charged by criminal complaint. We don't normally do that. But because we don't have the confidence in the state system, we had to do that here. It's kind of odd to be at this stage and still be investigating, but that's where we are by necessity. Laura. A lot of Americans see this, and I urge people to watch this, as difficult as it is. Because people have to understand what is at stake when you are going about your daily life. When you think everything is fine. When you are blithely unaware of your surroundings. Tragedy or horrific evil can strike, and sometimes you can't prevent it, but sometimes you can. And I think it's important for people to watch this. And she was in disbelief. You could see it in her eyes, Russ. She couldn't believe this had happened. And her eyes, in my view, you look at her eyes. She knew she was dying, and she couldn't believe it. She was on a bus, as your colleague said, you know, trying to get home from work or a train, and this is what is happening. We need the death penalty in this case. We need the maximum penalty against this individual, and that is the death penalty. This is such a random crime. This is absolutely terrifying. It could have been anyone. It could have been anyone's daughter. It's so sad to me you have to tell your kids not to wear the earbuds on the train. You should be able to sit in a row in peace without being stabbed in the back. Laura. Russ, thank you. I'm glad you showed your emotions today, because all of us were feeling what you were feeling, and I think it really made this day and what you are trying to do all that